Welcome to the Divine Connection podcast. I'm your host, Christina Aroche, and together we are walking the path of discovering your true self and the alignment with your soul. Through these conversations, you will experience a deeper level of connection with yourself and the universe, and most importantly, you will trust in your spiritual journey ahead. Let's begin. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Divine Connection podcast. Today, I have a really special guest here with me today. Her name is Christine, and I'm so excited for you to listen to this conversation, to hear about her journey. And I'm just going to say, all I'm going to say is she is such an inspirational woman, and I am so grateful that the divine has placed her in my path on my journey. And, we're going to talk about all of the things. So just to give you a little bit of insight in terms of who Christine is, Christine Lee is an intuitive inner awareness and alignment guide, a mentor, and a Reiki master healer. Her life's purpose is to empower people to reconnect with their true joy, trust their intuition, and show up with confidence, being their authentic selves while doing what they love. She believes that we are all born with unique gifts that we are meant to share with the world, and that our personal experiences help align our passions with our purpose. Using modern practical tools along with ancient spiritual practices, she helps her clients get into alignment within their body, mind, and spirit so that they can achieve their fullest potential and live abundantly. Ooh, I just love that so much. And welcome, Christine. I feel like you're like just reading that and just connecting with your energy. I'm like, yes. Like so much goodness just from that. And I'm just so excited to welcome you here. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Christina. I am super honored and grateful to be having this conversation with you. So I'm so excited.
Yay. Yes. So Christine and I met through a mastermind that we were both a part of. And I remember from the first day that I met you inside of that mastermind that like your energy and your story and your journey was so inspiring to me. And so I would love to start off by, having you share a little bit about your journey, kind of where you started with regards to your, spiritual awakening, with regards to you following this path, like your soul's calling, because I know that it wasn't always like this, right? So kind of walk us through where you were before and then kind of the process that led you into where you are today.
Yes, thank you so much. So my journey started, I feel like it starts when we're born in this lifetime on this earth.
Yes, totally.
Yeah. Like as a kid, just to give a little backstory, as a kid, I was always praying to God, to a higher power, connecting with spirit, loving being in nature and playing and exploring my creative side, right? The arts, dancing, drawing, singing, music, all of those things. And then as time progressed and as life happens, there's conditioning and programming that kind of suppresses that inner child, that inner joy, right? That creative side of us and that intuition that's like so naturally connected to spirit. So that's kind of what happened. And I let the cultural and societal human things kind of be put in the forefront of my life. And so I was following the traditional trajectory of life, which was, kind of like go to college, get a good degree, get a good job, maybe climb up the corporate ladder, and then get married, have kids, buy the house, and then retire, right, to live.
Right.
My parents were immigrants from Taiwan and Hong Kong, so I felt a little bit of the extra pressure subconsciously. So it wasn't like they were the type of parents that were like pushing me to a certain route. But I think from their friends and their networks and media and school and your peers, then it's like all this pressure that gets placed upon us.
Mm.
So, although I love the arts, I actually love psychology as well. I studied international business and marketing because that was the more pragmatic and logical route for me. And I did that because I wanted to travel for work. I loved learning about different
Mm.
cultures and languages and sociology and anthropology. And so I took international business and then marketing because I love psychology and learning the behaviors and patterns of people. And it's interesting that like it all kind of fits into what I'm doing kind of now.
Mm-hmm.
And so throughout this journey, I met a man who I fell deeply in love with. And I believe to this day, we can have multiple soulmates. So I believe he was a soulmate and we taught each other beautiful things and lessons. But that relationship where I thought we were going to get married and I was going to, follow that timeline, get married, have kids, buy the house, and everything was going to be this perfect, put into a box package with a nice bow. And,
Yep.
here's your successful American dream life. So
Yep. The one that
that
we're
didn't
sold. That's
happen.
like, here you go.
Yes,
This is like the package. This is what you got to strive for, right? And then it's kind of like we're sold that dream, and then, you know,
yeah,
I don't want to interrupt your story, but I think essentially it's like we realize that's not the actual dream that our soul desires, right?
absolutely. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that heartbreak was like kind of what led me to reconnecting with that spiritual side of me. And
Mm.
even before that, like I was, culturally, we kind of were Buddhist. It's just like really ingrained into Eastern culture. And and I also felt a really deep connection with Christ, with God as well. So I had like different sides of me,
Mm.
but I believe it all comes back to the same source. And
Yeah.
through that journey of like rediscovering myself, my values, what I'm actually brought into this lifetime onto this earth to do, my mission, my vision, my purpose, which I talk about a lot, is like the core of the foundation of where I got to rebuild from. So it was like rebuilding myself, renewing
Mm.
myself. And yeah, so that was about, yeah, that started about, I would say, like between 6 to 8 years ago was like really when that
Mm. Yeah.
peak
you kind of
came.
you kind of were like shoved into this, like, okay, this awakening process, right? Would you call it an awakening for yourself?
Absolutely. Like it was that year just blew my whole perspective of life around. It just
Yeah.
turned it around, blew it out of the water, like one serendipitous event after another, and meeting all of my
Mm.
spiritual teachers. One of my
Mm-hmm.
first mentors, who was a sixth generation Shaolin Temple descendant, and then meeting my Reiki teachers,
Mm.
and then learning that I have this really deep, like natural gift of intuiting and feeling and
Yeah.
sensing. And I always knew I was
Mm-hmm.
like, highly sensitive and empathetic and all of that. But I thought like in modern day society, we're taught that those are kind of almost hindrances, like in
Yes.
work, right? You don't want to show your feelings or,
Right.
be too sensitive or, that's like also
Yeah.
goes into the patriarchy of, not feeling
Mm-hmm.
things and being looked down upon if you're showing your emotions, especially as a woman.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. And I love that you brought this forward because I would love to hear more about your experience with kind of the discovery of that kind of intuitive side, or the part of you that you knew was always there, but that, like you just said, we were taught that we gotta suppress it, or it's not okay and whatever. I know that for me, my experience with kind of starting to connect to my intuition and my gifts, and then being able to recognize like, oh, actually I can connect with divine energy and kind of receive guidance and, this greater awareness or understanding of messages from spirit. For me, it was really a process of, the strongest way that it came through was through my knowing and through kind of like these subtle ways, and then as I continued on my journey, I started to focus on that development. So then I started to be able to see energy more and feel it more and that kind of thing. And one of the things that I teach people all the time is that we all have different ways in which we connect with spirit, right? Like for some, it's feeling is the strongest one. For others, it's through hearing and seeing and in their mind's eye. So I'm curious to hear more about your journey with regards to that aspect and how it's come through for you, or how you've noticed it develop over time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. So I would say I'm like clear sentient and clear cognizant, if those were the different clairs that we're talking about, which,
Yeah.
yeah, for me, it's like coming through as a knowing or
Mm-hmm.
uh, like a feeling. So
Mm-hmm.
it's, I kind of, I always felt that growing up, but then having the language to put into it once I started diving into this world and into a conscious and intentional lifestyle and learning more about the mind, body, and spirit connection, learning these different modalities and Reiki, it taught me that like, okay, so, my intuition comes through as a knowing, which is interesting because in human design, I am splenic. So that's like
Mm.
really accurate, which means like I just get these like subtle pings or hits and it's a knowing. It just drops in and it's like, trust
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love that we're both projectors.
I know. We're both
And
projectors and we're both splenic projectors, which I think is really cool. This is like the
yeah,
projector like episode. I feel like this is so cool.
yeah, I love that. Yeah. So yeah, for me, it's just that knowing. And then the feeling is like when I can really sense what somebody else is feeling, like the emotion that is showing up for them, even though they
Mm,
might not be addressing it or
yes.
consciously know it themselves. It's like this auric field that and then that's the work of me assessing if that's mine or that's somebody else's. And
Mm,
that was like
that's
the challenging part.
huge. That is
Yeah.
huge. I feel like
Yeah.
that's a big, big thing that a lot of people go through, as empaths, as people who are sensitive to energy and, maybe not even at first realizing that they're sensitive to energy, but then they go through this process where it's actually like, no, I'm picking up on things. And then, like you said, is it mine? Is it someone else's? And kind of like going through that process of really understanding that, and then if you did pick up on someone else's energy, learning how to clear it out too. I feel like that's an important, really
Yeah.
important skill to have.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like that was the first step for me to learn how to work with my energy and clear it was through and is meditation and Reiki. That was like my first foray, and then I started diving
Mm.
into a lot of other modalities. But like, wow, Reiki just like gave me so much healing, and yeah, I did it
Mm-hmm.
mostly for myself. I dove into it without ever actually receiving a session, but I felt drawn to my teacher because I had met her when I was at the Rose Bowl one year, and she had her shop
Mm.
there, and I felt drawn to her crystals. And I wasn't like I was always drawn to crystals, but I didn't really like dive into like learning more about them. But I was looking at her shop, and then she did a little chakra reading for me, and
Mm-hmm.
told me like where I had some blockages and things to clean out. And she was very accurate about it. And so I thought that was so interesting. But then it took another year before I saw her again and ran into her. And I really believe like spirit was like through that year, I did the inner work to be able to be at a level where I would be able to connect with Reiki and offer it to myself and to others.
Mm.
So yeah, and then
Yes.
she started offering these attunements, And so I
Mm-hmm.
dove like right into it. And that's where wow, like every attunement, I've received so much like love, but like forgiveness for myself and for other people. And then through that, I've experienced like ex boyfriends like apologizing to me out
Mm-hmm.
of nowhere and like all of
Wow.
these amazing, amazing completions. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. I just love that. It's so cool how working with energy, you can it's like you said, even like years later or however long later, it's there's still that kind of like you said, completion. I feel like that's such a great word for that. And it's all, part of the divine unfolding, in my opinion, and then also us being ready and showing up in our energy and following where spirit is leading us and guiding us. And that's really what it feels like,
Mhm.
with what you just shared with the teacher that you met and everything. It's like that synchronicity and those little pieces that are falling into
Mhm.
place that you don't realize in the moment, but then you can look back and you're like, oh yeah, that was all so divinely
Yeah.
guided and so divinely planned, right?
Yes. Yes. 100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I love that. So, so I would love to hear more in terms of now, for anyone, and we haven't talked about this yet, but you right now are in Bali. I'm in California, you're in Bali. It's so cool how we are like literally in opposite sides of the world right now and talking
Yeah.
and being able to connect in this way. And so I would love to hear more about this part of your journey that has led you, because I know that you've been here for quite a while now, right? Over 6 months, I
Yeah.
believe, in Bali specifically. And so I would love to hear more about your kind of this phase of your journey where you started to travel and you started to really follow that soul calling into traveling and how that kind of came to be. Because I know I I personally love traveling, and I know that there's a lot of people listening who
Mhm.
have that desire or have that dream to be able to travel. And so walk us through a little bit this part of your journey that led you to being able to do that.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm going to continue from when I had my spiritual awakening. Part of it was
Mhm.
because of my relationship ending, which was like, wow, my heart was broken into a million pieces. I don't know if you guys have ever
Yeah.
felt that way. But, then
Absolutely.
I like, yeah. And then I was led to another job position, which at the time I was working in media and I was looking for a more creative role because I was like underworked. I mean, underpaid and overworked. And
Mm.
then I got into Beverly Hills real estate, which was wow. Like
Wow.
again, it was just like what like I never would have thought in my life that that would have been my position. And yeah, through just divine, yeah, to just the divine connection, like that's it led me there and it showed me this side of life that I thought would make me happy and fulfilled. And on the outside,
Mm.
the facade of it all, the success and everyone looking in like, oh wow, Christine's living the life and like working with on a celebrity team, working in, Beverly Hills, Bel Air, like all these beautiful multi-million dollar homes. And um, yeah, this kind of like fancy facade. And I still felt unhappy and unfulfilled inside. I felt like it wasn't aligned with my values and who I was born to be. Um, and so that was all part of the reason why I connected deeper and deeper and leaned deeper into this mind, body, and spiritual connection. And while I was
Mhm.
working, I would still continue studying with these mentors and practicing Reiki and all these other modalities, tapping, kundalini, like, sound healing, all of the things, diving
Mm.
into that,
Yes.
hiking, connecting with nature. Yeah. And
Mhm.
that year, it just like, okay, so then I ended up working for a startup company and then got laid off in a few months and then
Mm.
like went to Burning for my first time. So like literally
Yes.
that year was crazy. And I had
Yeah.
this deep call of being called to Bali, and I was like, I mean, I kind of
Mm.
knew about Bali from like, I don't know, Eat, Pray, Love. I think that was like so
Yeah.
long ago. Um, and for sure, like I think even back then, that was like 20, I would say 2017. Maybe Bali started
Hmm.
becoming a little bit more well known, but it's still so far from America, from our side of the world. And
Right.
I don't know, I just felt this deep connection to it. And I believe that when we have this like thing or place or people that we're drawn to, there's like almost like soul karmic
Mm.
connections that we're meant to, again,
Yes.
complete the cycle with. And so I felt like that was where I was meant to be. And it took a while to start this journey, but um, 2020 gave me that push. And I was I
Mm.
went from LA back to New York to really heal my those ancestral healing and parts of myself that wanted to be closer to my family, because I had never, not that I had never, but I was kind of like after college, I moved to LA and I was always just traveling, which I'm still now, but
Mm.
um, I feel more at peace knowing that like almost like they've given me my blessings and I've given them my blessing of like, I honor where everyone is at on our journeys in life.
Mm.
And like at first, just a little bit of a tangent, but when I first went back to New York from my awakening, it's like I want to share everything with everyone and like this whole new world that I've experienced. And I'm like, why can't everyone live like this? Because I want everyone to feel happy and like joyful and loved.
Right.
And not everyone's like on the same path or journey as you. So it's like sometimes not received so well.
Yeah. Yes, that's so
Um,
huge, especially when we're so happy and so excited about, what we just discovered or what we're doing or what we're moving into, what we're planning. And yeah, it can kind of feel like a total bummer when you're like, yes, all these things, and people are like, yeah, whatever. Like that's not where I'm
yeah,
at, or whatever, you know what I mean? And so yeah, I think that's a
yeah.
huge part of our journeys too. I know for sure I've experienced this, and I feel like a lot of people have, where it's the release of that expectation that everyone should be or can be on the same page as us, and just really kind of, I'm on my journey, you're on your journey, I'm just going to keep following my path, and it's okay, we can all, we can still get along and all be connected, but I'm releasing my expectation that you're going to get it. Right, you know what I mean?
So yeah, I started my nomadic journey. I went back after I went back to New York. It just through 2020 and the pandemic, of course, it gave me the push to take my coaching and this more conscious spiritual business full time. I
Mm-hmm.
was still doing some real estate before part time because that was like my security safety net. And then I realized like, no more 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Like I have to go all in. Like my soul is calling and
Yeah.
spirit is calling and all these places are calling. So instead of
Yes.
going to Bali right away, I went to Mexico, Tulum to be exact, and traveled a
Mm.
little bit from there. And that's another, I think, spiritual vortex. And the
Oh
community there
yeah,
is quite beautiful as well.
totally.
Yeah, yeah. But I still had this kind of like urge to be in Bali. Like I knew that was kind of almost like a pit stop for me.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I was there for basically a year and then went back to New York for a few months and then got to Bali in July of 2022. And I've been here since. I'm just kind of like following the call, and that's like the intuition and my faith is so strong that I'm so
Mm.
guided and I surrender and trust to that process of, okay, not trying to plan ahead so much. Of course, I have plans and I have goals and I set intentions, but especially after my awakening, the biggest lesson I've learned is that, like, as humans, we think we have so much control over everything, and that's like the ego talking. But when we truly
Yes.
trust and love ourselves and spirit, like we transcend that into surrender and deep, deep, just letting go and of faith, that everything is meant for our highest good, for our highest capability and potential.
Mm, I love that. It's
Yeah.
so good. And I feel like it brings it back like into this truth that it's not just us walking this path by ourselves, like like the divine spirit, angels, the universe, spirit guides, whoever it is that you connect to, God, Jesus, like all of those divine beings, they're with us. They're walking with us, whether we see them or not, and I feel like it's such a beautiful experience where as we, as you shared through your journey, like releasing the things that do not serve you and really following the calling of what you truly felt within your soul, like this is where I'm meant to be, or this is how I'm supposed to live my life, that has really opened you up to that awareness and that connection on an even deeper level. And then on top of that, being able to then develop and continue to cultivate such a deep sense of trust within yourself and love within yourself and, empowerment from all of that, which is so, so cool to witness. I love this so much. Like I said at the beginning, I'm like, your story is so inspirational and so
Oh.
powerful, and people need to hear this because this is you living your soul's calling. It's just so, so great to
Mm.
witness that, you know?
Thank you. That really means a lot to me. Like it's, yeah, it really does. It's just another sign for me to be like, keep going. Like this is the right
Yeah.
path. And no matter how challenging it gets now, sometimes, right? Like it's not like before. Like before, there's this almost sense of like being lost or confused in life versus now having
Mm,
that faith and trust. Like, yeah, things will get challenging and like things are going to come up and show up, but like it's different. It's a different
yeah.
feeling.
Yeah, yeah, I totally get what you're saying. So another thing that came up, a question, you being in Bali right now, having been in Bali for several months now, what would you say is one of the biggest things that you've now experienced here, or maybe a lesson that you've learned, or a deeper connection that you've felt, or, whatever way, like what would you feel is a gift that you've received in Bali up until this point?
Ooh. I love this question. So, it's getting quite like vulnerable speaking this out loud, but yeah, through this journey, I'm always about exploration and trying all the modalities and learning about different spiritual practices, and you know, I love it all. I think they can all be used as tools and as like things that we can put into our toolbox. And I realize I'm nearing my Christ year, which is 33. I'm turning 33 in April. And
Mm,
I feel like throughout this journey, unexpectedly, I'm leaning deeper into my connection with Christ, with God.
mm,
And I
yes.
actually started going to a Hillsong church here in Bali, which I didn't
Mm-hmm.
realize what originated from Australia, which also was like, I wanted to be in Bali because it was close to Australia for some reason. Haven't been to Australia
Mm-hmm.
yet. Um, so again, this like trusting that calling of like, I would never think that Bali would be the place that I would grow my relationship with Christ, because it's a lot of Hinduism this year,
Right.
and and
Mm-hmm.
and Indonesia itself is Muslim, but Bali is Hindu mostly,
Mm-hmm.
and which is also beautiful in its own way. So yeah, I feel like that's the greatest gift. Like I everyone's on their own journey and path, like I mentioned, and a lot of people here are just starting that spiritual path, so they're learning about the different modalities and
Mm,
attending all these different events, which is beautiful. But I feel like I've kind of like gone on that journey,
mm-hmm.
and already, so now I'm like coming into a more grounded place where I have my own practices and that I've built that connection so strong that it's not that it doesn't matter what practices I have, but it's really about, like, for me, that the divine connection, as you mentioned on this podcast, right? As the name of this podcast
Yeah.
suggests, that's really it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Ah, this is so beautiful and so powerful. And I feel like so many people are going to resonate with that. Just me personally having had an experience with Christ as well, and with, that connection to Jesus, and then also through my work too, like anyone who's listening to this who has done anything with me workshop wise or whatever, guidance wise, anything, he has come forward. He has stepped forward through the work that I do as
Mm,
well. So I feel like there's
mm,
this
mhm,
like we've been talking about, like this overall divine connection that exists, and it looks and shows up for people in different ways. My journey started with angels,
mhm,
and for other people it starts in other ways, and but then at the end of the day, it's like, what's the connection between it all? It's this connection to love.
yeah.
It's this connection to truth.
Mm,
It's this connection to spiritual energy, to who we truly are, and understanding that we are all here to live in the greatest expression of who we are meant to be. And these are
mhm,
all tools and beings and connections that we can call upon to support that, whether you resonate with this one or this one or this one or this one or this one. There is an option for every single person out there. and
right.
and the other part of it is that I feel like as we develop on our journeys, it ebbs and flows and opens up to this and opens up to
Yeah.
that. And I feel like our job is to really stay open to where we are led, and to where it's guiding us, because it's always going to guide us for the highest good you know
Yes. I love that. Woo!
Yes, it's so good.
Well
It's so
said.
good. And so I want to ask you one final question, which is, with the work that you do now as an intuitive, as a guide, as a Reiki healer, and just, having these different modalities and tools that you use, what would you say, like, how would you describe your journey that you take people through, in terms of when people decide to work with you and mentor with you, and that kind of thing? Like, how would you describe your process? I'm really curious to hear,
Mm,
how that is. I'm sure you use like your intuitive abilities and the knowing and the feeling and all that combined together. I'm really curious to hear
yeah.
how that comes through in your work.
Thank you. Yeah. Um, yeah, it's really interesting because then, like, it comes so naturally for me to just pick up on what someone is needing in the moment, or what they are
Mm,
desiring to clarify on. So for me, my process, I really do enjoy the coaching part of it, because I get to ask the questions for people to go through that self discovery process of gaining
mm-hmm.
more self awareness and curiosity, pique their curiosity of why they have certain thoughts or patterns or behaviors. And then from there, kind of clarify on where they desire to go, the next steps, their goals, their intentions, and what's maybe in the way that's blocking them from that.
Mm,
Um, and then we work through that discovery and exploration process to help them to transform into this newer version of themselves, where they are able to hold that capacity and that higher potential, and align with their desires and their dreams and their purpose. So it's really like removing all the gunk out of the system, the programming, the conditioning, the cultural and societal beliefs and patterns that have been ingrained upon them since we were kids.
yeah.
And then just slowly going in and, like, doing a little energy surgery to remove it, um,
Yes.
and just clear the way, the path for them to be like, wow, this is who I'm meant to be, and now I just get to take these inspired actions, because in spirit there is action, and
Mm-hmm.
align with that highest version of themselves.
Ah, So good. Oh, I just love this so much. That feels so incredibly empowering and just so, the other energy that I feel is like nourishing. That's what I want to say. Like so much nourishment and support and love that comes through with that helps people to thrive. You know what I mean? It's kind of like if you think of a plant that or a seed that you put in the soil, well, it has the potential inside of it, but it needs the right environment, needs the right nourishment to help
Mm-hmm.
it to grow into that potential. And so, with what you just shared, I can really feel that like nourishment. You nourish that soil. You bring that to
Oh my
people, and I
God.
just love that. So
Thank
good.
you. That's like so expansive and warms my heart to hear. Thank you so much, love.
Yes, 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 absolutely. So, as we conclude this episode, I would love for you to share more about where people can find you, how they can connect with you, and I believe that you have a little something special to share with the audience. So, if you want to share more about the gift that you have and all of the things where people can connect with you.
Sure, thank you. So, my handle under Instagram and TikTok is christinelee.co. And I just started a YouTube channel. So, I would love if
Woo!
you check it
So
out.
exciting.
Yeah. It's also christinelee.co1. So it's Christine Lee Co. And it's a conscious community of co-creators that I like to believe are, we're all colleagues and cohorts of this life. So I'm hoping to bring this kind of spiritual awareness and consciousness to the masses and make it more accessible for everyone, no matter what stage of the journey you're at, because we're here for the collective. And so yes, I invite you to also connect deeper with your why, your purpose. And so I have a free guidebook that I created for people to do that. It's a really simple yet potent exercise to help you define your top 5 core values. You don't have to think about the values. It's just an exercise you go through and then you will discover it at the end. And there's going to be a daily habit tracker and journal prompts for you to reflect on as well. So you can download that from my website. The link is in my bio for my Instagram. And I think Christina will also link it here. So I hope it serves you. And
Yes.
thank you all for joining us today and listening in from wherever you are in the world. It's so amazing to have technology in this way.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that so much. Thank you so much for sharing about that. And yes, we will have all the links to all the places where you can connect with Christine and also find the free download in the show notes below this episode. So definitely go check that out. Go connect with her. Oh my gosh, it's just amazing and so inspiring too, because if you follow her on the Instagram stories, it's just like amazing to receive this Bali vibe. So I just love it. It's
Mm,
so good. And I also
yay.
appreciate the birds that have been chirping in the background. It's like totally, like creates the vibe of this episode. So thank you for
Oh,
that. Thank you for
yay. I
all of
love
the
that.
sound effects. It was beautiful and so amazing.
Oh my
I just
gosh.
love it. Yes. So thank you once again,
Thank
Christine,
you,
for coming on
Christina.
here. It was such an honor and such a pleasure to talk to you, to hear more about your journey. And for those of you listening in, number one, let us know in the comments what has been your biggest takeaway, what beautiful nuggets of wisdom have resonated the most with you today. Post that in the comments below. Share your love for Christine in the comments. And like I said, go check her out. Go see all the things that she's doing. It's so, so inspirational. And I just absolutely have so much love for you. So thank you once again for being here. I appreciate you so, so much.
Thank you.
And for everyone else, I will see you in the next episode. As always, I am sending you so much love and angel blessings. Bye.
Bye.
Thank Thank you once again for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. And if you want to learn more about the Divine Connection podcast, you can go to christinaaroche.com/podcast and learn about how you can be featured on the show.